What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to look at the Corsair K63 Wireless keyboard and whether or not it's the one that you should buy for gaming, work, and day-to-day use. Now at the time of recording, this keyboard retails in the UK for £119, but it's been on the market since 2018, so it's definitely no freshly released product. But it remains revolutionary. When it first came out, the K63 Wireless was the first keyboard to be simultaneously mechanical, meaning it uses key switches under each individual key instead of soft membranes, giving a more responsive and tactile feel, and simultaneously wireless. At the time, for gamers, this was a fantastic new combination of high performance and no cables required. But now we're years later and the innovation doesn't really seem so innovative. So is there even any point in considering buying this keyboard anymore, or should you just go and look elsewhere? Well, in my opinion, the K63 Wireless is still a great gaming keyboard and still absolutely worth buying, but with a few caveats. So let's take a closer look and see why. So the design is very simple. In terms of the keyboard itself, you're getting a 10 keyless or TKL design, meaning that it's almost going to be full size, but you're missing the number pad or the so-called 10 key on the right hand side. So the sort of size should appeal to people who want to be using this keyboard predominantly for gaming and who therefore don't have to spend a lot of time punching in numbers all the time into spreadsheets, for example. It comes with a detachable wrist rest which fits on the front, and there's a blue color surface which lies underneath the keys just to give a little bit more contrast and visibility. There's also a backlight, but it only produces one shade of blue. You can control the brightness on 3 different levels directly on the keyboard, or if you want further options, then you can go into Corsair's IQ software, which works with this keyboard. Not being able to customize the color of the lighting on this keyboard is one particular drawback. It doesn't bother me that much personally, I'm not somebody who's super into RGB lighting, but if you are, then this keyboard obviously isn't going to be for you, and you're going to want to consider others from Logitech, for example, which do offer further options. Now, generally speaking, I do like the design, I like how compact it looks especially, but I also think it doesn't look like the most attractive keyboard just because it does look pretty bulky compared to other slimmer options like the Logitech G915, for example. And if you have a similar opinion, then you might want to just spend a little bit more to get something like the Logitech G613, which is a similar looking keyboard in some ways, but it does have a little bit of a sleeker and cleaner design to it. Now, I think partly this kind of look is to do with the material that it's made from, which brings us on to the subject of build quality. So the keyboard uses plastic for the main body, and as a result, the build does feel strong. There's no flex or anything like that to the body when you try and bend it, but it does also feel a little bit cheaper than metal, for example. Now, the keycaps are made of ABS plastic, so they feel absolutely fine, but again, not super premium. But I would also say that the material, it's just not really something to worry about for the price. Just decide for yourself if you do want to spend considerably more on an alternative keyboard like the Logitech G915 in order for a more premium kind of build. So let's take a look at some of the additional features and keys now. First of all, if we look at the top right and the top left, we get great access to these different multimedia keys. You have volume controls, a mute button, you can pause your music, skip audio tracks, and there's also a Windows lock key which prevents you from accidentally minimizing games. In addition, you're going to get hotkeys for connected devices, putting your computer to sleep, and also navigating mobile Android devices. Now again, you are going to lose some choice compared to more premium and higher end keyboards. So for example, on the K63 Wireless, you're going to control volume with buttons instead of something like a scroll wheel like you'll get on the Logitech G915. But overall, the controls feel really great and they give you a lot of access to different features of your devices. So let's talk about the typing experience now. I have to say that the keys feel good. You're going to get a lot of key travel without actually having that much resistance, which is nice. But also your experience is going to vary massively depending on what you're already used to typing with. Myself, for example, I came to this keyboard after having used pretty much nothing but the keyboard on my 2013 MacBook Pro. So I definitely needed some time to adjust. At first, the keys on the K63 for me felt really high and pretty unnatural, but they feel absolutely normal now. But if it helps improve comfort for you, then you can take advantage of the fact that there are height controls at the bottom of the keyboard on the back. So you can choose whether or not you want the keyboard to have more or less incline. I personally find the keyboard fine without the extra height, but it's there if you want to use it. Unfortunately, I have found that the wrist rest is not terribly comfortable compared to other softer ones, so you might want to consider a third-party option if you do have this keyboard. But also the extra incline that's available to you means that you might not even have to use the keyboard with the wrist rest at all. Now, in terms of sound, just be aware as well that this keyboard is super noisy to type with. I know others seem to think that it's pretty quiet. I can't wrap my head around that personally. So just to illustrate what I mean, here's how loud it sounds compared to when I'm typing on my MacBook Pro. So yeah, I mean, the Corsair is way louder. At the same time though, I do have to admit that I am an extremely loud typer often, much to the annoyance of people who are sometimes near me, so if you're not like that, then hey, you know, you might be fine. But if you are a fellow loud typer and maybe you live in shared accommodation, or you use the keyboard in a shared bedroom or whatever it might be, then you might want to consider something a little quieter, like the Corsair Strafe RGB MX. When it comes to connectivity, you've basically got two options up front. You can either connect the keyboard via Bluetooth, or you can connect over a 2.4 GHz wireless connection using a USB dongle that's included with the keyboard. Now we'll get to the differences between those connections in a moment, but in general, if you want a more reliable signal, then always use the USB receiver. But also be careful with it because it is extremely easy to lose, and unfortunately the keyboard doesn't come with a little notch for safekeeping. Now you can pair the keyboard to up to 2 different devices for easy switching, either with the USB receiver or via Bluetooth. And once you're connected, you can switch between paired devices by pressing Function plus F9 or F10. In the box, there's a micro USB cable which you can use for charging. Now, micro USB is not ideal here. Nowadays, it is preferable to have USB-C, just so that you can avoid having loads of different types of cables lying everywhere. Having said that though, Corsair's choice of the micro variant is understandable given that the keyboard was made in 2018. Also, as we're on the topic of charging, the keyboard has great battery life. It lasts up to 75 hours on a single charge, so it'll last several days of intensive use without needing to be plugged in. There's also an included USB extension adapter, which allows you to use the USB charging cable either to reposition the dongle on your desk just for greater flexibility or for connectivity over a greater distance from your PC. Now the K63 Wireless works with Corsair's IQ software, which allows you to control key assignments as well as the lighting effects. Now I do think the lighting effects are actually pretty cool, even though I'm not somebody who's usually into loading up all the tech with all the RGB. You get a fair bit of customization with options for controlling effect speeds as well as things like glow duration, which is pretty nice if you're into all of that. And another feature of the keyboard is that it is compatible with Corsair's lap board, which can make for easier use if you're on the couch and you also want space for a mouse pad on your lap. Though I haven't actually tried it, so I can't comment on how good it is. However, I wouldn't recommend this feature unless you love the idea of gaming with a PC on a TV far away. It's just not going to add anything to normal PC gaming. Now the keyboard performs extremely well. It's equipped with cherry red MX switches which feel really responsive and light, and it's low latency, especially with the USB receiver, although latency is a little bit higher with Bluetooth. And above all, performance just feels absolutely great while playing games. I didn't notice any issues with the USB connection. Although I would say that if you are gaming, then do avoid Bluetooth at all costs. Otherwise you might have noticeable connectivity and latency issues like signal cutting out or just low response times. Okay, so to sum up, for its price and for what it's for, this is simply a great keyboard, even years after it was first released. It connects and performs really well, the build quality is great, and it feels great to type and play games on. Now, as always, you are going to have to make compromises on build quality and customization compared to more premium options, which is where those caveats that I mentioned at the beginning of this video come in. Compared with the Logitech G915, for example, the plastic keycaps and casing is just going to give you a bit of a cheaper feeling build. You'll get slightly more limited multimedia key functionality, and you also won't have bucket loads of options for programming the RGB lighting. But in my view, here's the bottom line. If you want a really reliable, higher end keyboard for work and gaming, but you also don't want to spend a ton of money, then if you like the look and design, the K63 Wireless remains a fantastic option. It's definitely not going to let you down, and I would 100% recommend it. If you like this video and you found it useful, then go ahead and smash the like button, and if you found it especially helpful and you're interested to see more, then go ahead and subscribe and tap the bell for notifications. It's completely free and you'll keep up to date with all of the latest news on the channel, so you'll be notified as soon as new content gets released. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.